everyone's vulnerable to medical debt. It's not someone's fault. It's something that's a built-in feature of our healthcare financing system, and we need to wake up and recognize that reality. Insurance alone is not protecting people. In fact, there's a new statistic that's out relatively recently from Kaiser that says that the biggest predictor of medical debt is whether or not you get sick, not your insurance status.
We're RIP Medical Debt, a nonprofit eliminating billions of dollars in debt for struggling Americans.
What we're doing is we're actually taking a donation and not trying to do anything but make people be free and clear of those medical debts. We take $1 and we can turn that $1 into $100 or more of face value of medical debt that we can relieve. We were founded by former debt buyers who understood that you can buy debt so super cheaply on the market. What gave us our big break was actually a segment on John Oliver.
To a non-profit organisation which specialises in forgiving medical debt with no tax consequences for the debtor.
Our website crashed and it took off from there. And we've been able to actually abolish $8.5 billion of debt, helping 5.5 million people in under 10 years. What debt collectors do is they go to the hospitals, the providers who are sitting on bad debt. The people who owe the debt can't pay it back. And they say, I'm going to buy the entire bad debt portfolio. They have to pay a very low price in order for that bet or that investment that they're making to pay off. And that's what we're taking advantage of, that pricing, except the giant difference is when we get our hands on the debt, we just send out letters in mass to thousands of people in that portfolio and say, you have been cleared of this debt forever. There's no way to apply. It's absolutely not something you can apply for. There's no action, which I think is the beautiful part of our intervention, because a lot of social interventions require an action on the part of the person, and that sometimes really reduces the impact. And so ours, there's nothing you have to do. I mean, in fact, if you moved and somehow didn't get the letter, that technically would still be abolished. Of course, we work really hard to make sure we do inform people, and we have different mechanisms behind that. People's reactions are varied, and some of them will say, I didn't believe it until I looked on the website. I thought this was a joke, or at first I thought it was a debt collector and I had to read it 3 times to really see what was happening here. And a lot of people honestly say that they cry, that they're emotionally moved because the weight of this debt being lifted when they didn't take an action on their own is just very overwhelming for them. Our donors range from individuals, people who we've helped send us $5 in the mail is amazing. And then we've got, large donors like individuals like McKinsey Scott. We've been very lucky to benefit from her philanthropy. But then we also have corporate giving. A lot of institutions recognize this issue and the impact on their communities that they're working in, and the fact that it's, eating up dollars that could be spent in the economy on local goods and things and services that they're providing. Churches have been huge donors to RIP Medical Debt. I think they recognize that this is, something that is aligned with their religious beliefs and that it's really in sync. So we have donors of all shapes, sizes, and from all regions of the country. It's a very exciting place to be. It speaks to the prevalence of understanding of the brokenness of our healthcare financing system and how many people, even if they themselves were not impacted and can pay those bills, that it's at substantial sacrifice for themselves, that they're looking at the amounts and being like, I can pay this, but I'd rather buy, piano lessons for my kid. We do not think we are the solution or the answer to this problem. That is something that I really want to always say loud and clear to everybody. But I also think that what we do is a really important solution for people today. They can't wait for the political alignment and the solutions to be, the fundamental big change to the system that we need. People are hurting today. They need the relief today. And we need to be pushing for bigger change at the same time. So I think for the individuals who we've helped, we're making a huge dent in their problem. And so that's how I think about the work that we do every day. I can't think that we're not going to somehow make strides in the right direction on this, or I won't get out of bed in the morning, honestly. I do think that we're medical debt is having its moment in terms of getting more national and state attention, as evidenced by the fact that more and more governments are reaching out to us to support what we're doing. I do think that governments, as they do medical debt relief with us, should be thinking about systemic and legal changes to improve the problem fundamentally. It's also one of an economic problem. People are really having a hard time making ends meet. So economic solutions, things like cutting, food stamp programs impact things like people's budgets overall. So I also think we have to think about it in the context overall of how people are doing, and inflation and all these other things all together do have to be looked at, I think, fundamentally. Anybody could give $5 to RIP medical debt, and we would get rid of $500 of a medical bill for an individual. So that's huge. But also, I think we should just talk about this issue. Talk about their own struggles with medical debt or medical bills. Like, it doesn't have to have turned into debt. If you signed up for a payment plan and every month the hospital's taking $100 out of your paycheck, like, that's $100 you probably could have spent on something else more beneficial in your life. So I think I would just tell people to talk about the issue of healthcare financing, of medical debt in general, and to understand that this is not something to be ashamed of, that it's something that is part of the system. It's really hard to avoid, actually. You're not alone. It's a common thing that people are struggling with across the country.